Okay, Texxi is a scheme which we hope to implement in the next 1 week in Liverpool called Taxi Text. It's meant to address the problem of a lack of taxis at peak times demand on Friday and Saturday evenings. What Texxi can also do is work as a way to get people home quickly and safely as an orderly dispersal mechanism. What we do is we put several people together who are going in a similar direction and they all board a cab at the same time. Once they get into cab, they pay the driver £5 each. The driver then gets a lot more money for doing the same trip, which he might only get £6 or £7 for, say, and he takes them from the city centre to each of their addresses, dropping them off one at a time. So it's not like the collectivo systems exactly that you see in South America or Greece or Lebanon, although it's got some similar ideas behind it. What happens is people get in the cab at the same time, so the cab doesn't stop and pick different people up. It picks them all up in one time, drops them off at different locations. Now this will enable us to make more use of the total number of person seats in the taxi fleet. Liverpool's got the highest number of cabs per capita in the UK, and yet it's got actually one of the biggest taxi shortage problems on a Friday and Saturday night. Now, after having walked home a few too many times, I'm thinking this is just annoying, and I can't understand in the 21st century we can put people on the moon, but we can't move people from Liverpool city centre out to the suburbs, and it's actually killing Liverpool. And as the roadworks have actually got worse, the whole situation's become even worse. I know for a fact when it's cold and wet, I will not go out because I know I'm going to be waiting for up to an hour, 2 hours in the actual freezing cold. Another key aspect of this is it's an ecological factor. People can actually do more for the environment by sharing vehicles. The whole point about using one car per person, it's very inefficient. It promotes more road wear, it uses more fuel, it burns more carbon and creates more carbon dioxide and other emissions. If people are sharing, we can reduce the amount of traffic on the roads while carrying the same amount of people by as much as 60 or 70%. So it's a very simple scheme, which is what we call a demand responsive transit brokerage, to address quite an annoying problem. Later on, as people get more used to the idea, we can do it for reverse commute, like people get picked up from a similar area and taken to one point. So that could take care of out-of-town retail centres which are hard to get to or which have lots of parking difficulty. So that's Texxi, the Taxi Text. The scheme actually takes group bookings right now. What you can do is you can create a Texxi group if you want a choice of who you will share a cab with. You might not want to be in a cab with a certain type of person. If you're a young woman travelling by yourself, you might only want to be with other young women. So you can create a Texxi group which gives you some control over who you'll be in a cab with. There's also a record of what cab you got into, who you were in the cab with, when you were picked up and where, and when you were dropped off and where. So people can enforce details of safety. And you can also have a best friend text, or your partner or your parents. So if you want somebody to know that you have got home safely, as soon as you debus from the actual vehicle, a text is sent to the person who you put as your designated person to be notified. So hopefully this whole scheme will make travelling home a lot safer. The police have expressed quite a bit of interest in getting this done simply because with 24-hour drinking coming up, there aren't too many 24-hour transport options, and it takes a long time to build more public infrastructure. We think this scheme can be applicable in a variety of areas across the UK, mostly northern cities where there's a dense city centre and there's a large urban sprawl around there. So you have a lot of people coming in at a similar time to one area and then trying to leave that area within a 2 or 3 hour period.
Can I ask, is this system working and operational yet?
The tech scheme has been working for over 3 or 4 months. In fact, it's actually been working for about a year. You can text in, you can interact with the system, you can ask for information, you can see how much it costs normally to go from one place to another. We will start fulfilling trips as soon as the large demand-side marketing campaign goes. The radio advert will be out on Juice FM tomorrow, and we also have another advert which is called GIMP, which is about a chap who's been abducted and he's in a basement somewhere. And obviously with the orange ball in his mouth, he can't talk, but he can at least text for a cab to get him out of a sticky situation. There's one on our website right now with a skydiver whose chute doesn't open, but he manages to text for a cab and he's saved that way. Although obviously that's a bit tongue-in-cheek. Don't go skydiving and thinking you can text for the cab, you'll die. Especially over the Christmas period, we've been promoting this to a lot of office groups. We wanted to specifically push the whole Texxi groups idea. So when people go to office parties, if they just kind of talk to each other beforehand and say, I live in St. Helens, I live in Port Sunlight, I live in Preston, whatever else. Then what we can do is we can kind of pre-work out a departure for people so they can share taxis going back the same direction, so they definitely get back. Because right now at this time of year, it's very hard to get transport.
Have you brokered deals with local taxi firms? How are you going to fulfil this?
We got 60 drivers signed up about 3 or 4 months ago, just for the basic trial. They can carry.
Private hire companies, are they black taxis?
They're black cabs operating in the private hire mode.
Although I see this as a marketing dream, I do see it as, I can see how you're selling it. I would have thought logistically and the sort of practical difficulties is where I could see it falling down. I mean, people go out having a good time. Do they then, are they all going to turn up 3, 4, whatever? So have you got a model of it working somewhere?
No, this will be the model of it working, but we did significant market research beforehand. And when we approach people, especially about 2 or 3 a.m. when they're really freezing and cold, people will do most anything for a taxi. So they're very suggestible then. So what we did try and do was get banner holders to go there. We tried this one weekend and we noticed that people started to text in almost immediately. We've had some difficulties getting more people to work at that time of night, but we've got that for next week, hopefully.
So you're just then, they're not pre-booking beforehand, they're just, it's like you're just sorting out the queue of people to check who's going in the same direction.
They are pre-booking. We had a barrister look at this, and Liverpool City Council.
And that's where I see the difficulty, pre-booking. Before you've had a few drinks and decide that actually you might stay out for a little bit longer with your friends is totally different to sorting out the queue who's there.
Nope, because after you've had those few drinks and then you thought, I shouldn't have done that, I should have gone home a bit earlier so I might have got a cab. In the warmth of the club, you just text and within 5 or 10 minutes, we'll have a cab sorted out for that person, simply because our computer system will collate all the requests, aggregate them, figure out who's going the same direction, create a trip record with those people, send them texts saying...
I understand what you're telling me. I'm just wondering how, or if necessarily those people who thought they wanted a cab will get there at the same time. The other thing I was going to say is, if all 3 or 4 or whatever don't arrive, and there's only one, do they still get the journey at £5 rather than the proper price, which would be £9?
Yep.
How have the taxis felt about that?
They'll still get the journey. The people who don't turn up, it's like EasyJet. You pay for your flight. If you don't turn up, EasyJet don't care. They've got your money. They'll fly the plane away.
They pay in advance, and as soon as they text, are they paying for the taxi then?
Nope. They'll get the booking charge, but then they'll have to pay with £5 when they turn up. If they don't turn up and the taxi departs without them, we'll send them a £5 billing charge, which is made clear in the terms and conditions to their phone as an incentive.
And how would you then enforce that the £5? Or?
Because we send the bill to their phone. We can send what's called a reverse billing message. So it's like a telltale. It can find you anywhere and still charge you. You can't run off because, well, if you do run off, we'll just send a £5 billing message to the phone, and that's enough to actually make people make sure that
you can't put it straight onto their phone bill. You can't go that far.
Yeah, we can. That's exactly what reverse billing is.
Right. Oh, okay. Now I understand it. So then you will automatically make sure you've got your money. If they don't turn up, that is on their phone bill, and they have to pay it.
When you book a cab and you say you want a cab and you agree to it, that's a legally binding contract. Currently, when you ring up a minicab firm and you're not there when they turn up, they technically can sue you. It's just not worth their while to.
Now I'm feeling a lot happier, you see. I was worried about the practical difficulties. Now I know that they've got your money on your phone straight away. Okay, thank you.
So is your revenue model just from the customer? There's no journey from the taxi firms as well? Managing fee for...
Yeah, what we do is we let the taxi drivers collect the money from each of the passengers. So let's say it's a Hackney cab with 5 people in. They pay £5 each. Hackney cab gets £25. We'll work out what's called a settle, which is a simple word for reconciliation charge. We'll say to drivers, we expect to get you 10 trips at £25 each. We'll take our, let's say, 20% cut. So of that £250, we'll take 50 per night. You give us £50 before you start on Friday and £50 before you start on Saturday. If we only send you 8 trips, we owe you money for the next week. If we send you 12 trips, you owe us money for the next week. That's a reconciliation charge. In addition to this, we've got SMS revenues, which actually, if we take a 14% reconciliation charge, SMS revenues actually are higher than the actual seat revenue. Then we have things like advertising that we can do, simply because in larger people carriers we can have certain screens playing certain ads and whatever else. In fact, we made our virals so they will play in the actual vehicles to start with, so when people keep seeing them, then they'll understand this is a great marketing opportunity. So we've got at least 3 revenue streams there.
I guess the obvious final question is, what would you do with the
What's
money
your
if you
number?
won?
We'd roll it out in another, I think our target's 100 cities in the next sort of 5 years.